The Miyoo Flip is here, and I've spent the last 24 hours taking it through its paces. So what did I discover in playing with this new little clamshell? Well, let's dive in. However you choose to travel, we'll keep you moving forward. Enterprise. No, wait, I'm not a car salesman, retailer, whatever those guys do. And I don't rent cars. Hey, Deadheads, welcome back to the channel. Or welcome to the channel for the first time, new Deadheads. All right, so this is a pretty attractive box as we do this unboxing. Typically, like with the A30 and the Miyoo Mini, we didn't get boxes, so this is a little bit different, but I kind of like it, you know? It's got some nice little color here, touches to it. On the side, it's got some information. And on the back of it, it does have the specs of it with a misspelling of vibration motor instead of vibration motor. Kind of interesting. So anyway, it's a pretty nice box, but what I really like is that once you open up the box, you still get a nice bag. Now, this is something that you have to pay extra for Anbernic. So remember that this is a little bit more expensive right now, and it'll go down in price as time goes over. But right now, you are getting a bag with it. So keep that in mind for the price there. Once we inspect the bag, it's really nice. It's a nice bag. It has a nice little zipper here with the little controller on it. And once we open it and start to get inside of it, we see that it is packed. I mean, it is totally packed full of stuff. So of course we've got the handheld here, but we've got a game card. So that's the first thing. You got the game card. You have to insert that yourself. It's not pre-inserted. Get the handheld out of the way here. We do have a USB-C adapter, so that's nice. We also have a screen protector and the manual. And let's take a look at the manual here. And so kind of I don't know, kind of a boring manual, not much to it. It's in color. That's kind of nice, I guess. You know, I don't know if you Deadheads care about manuals. But we also have a USB cable, so it's USB A to C still. Are we ever going to get C to C proper charging in this lower budget? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe not for a long while. But it has the white one. So yeah, that's nice. So a screen protector is included, a case is included, an adapter is included. Keep that in mind. So when you are purchasing this. So yeah, that's what it looks like from the packaging. Let's get this thing out and let's just start taking a look at it. And first impressions, the plastic. Now, I ended up getting the yellow not because I wanted the yellow, but because the yellow was the only one left in stock by the time that I ordered it. So it reminds me of a faded cream color that's been in a smoker's home. Okay, so it's kind of faded. Now they had a beautiful yellow on the Miyoo Mini, so I don't really understand why this one didn't get a matching color. And if you hang out in our community, you see that I put a post about that. But the texture of this thing is pretty nice. It feels good. The plastic feels a little bit different. It doesn't have a smooth coating on it like the Anbernic device. It's more matte, but that's good for holding on it because it doesn't feel slippery at all. So really like that. And as we take a look at the handheld overall, in its folded up form factor, this thing is small. It is quite small. In fact, it's a lot smaller than the SP. So I know a lot of people are going to want to know about the size of it between the SP. And so the model here you can see is quite a bit smaller and not as thick. Now, keep in mind that this is running a CPU that has got a little bit more performance under the hood than the H700. So it's kind of interesting that they were able to pack that in a smaller handheld. Is that going to mean heat problems in the future? I don't know. I hope not. There was a big deal when this one first came out, the SP, about whether it was sitting on the CPU, it was going to overheat and all that. So I don't know, testing, we'll find out in time. But for right now, I haven't had any issues. It hasn't even felt really warm. It's felt a little warm, but not greatly warm. But yeah, you can see the thickness of it and everything comparing the two, and it's significantly smaller. I'd say at least 20% overall smaller. So that's very favorable for holding and putting in your hand when it still has the same size screen, a 3.5-inch screen. So that's comparing the two of those right there. As we open this thing up, I don't know, we'll have to see if you can catch us on the camera, but it's clicky, it's loud. So if you're going to be playing this or opening this, next to your partner in the bed, and you're going to try to be sneaky and quiet, this is not it. It's loud, guys. The hinge it's just loud opening it. Now, that doesn't bother me so much, but I know for some people that may be a bit of a deal breaker if they're only get, a very busy day and this is the only time they get to really play on this is when they need to play it and have it be quiet. So the hinge is not that. The one thing though is that the hinge does stay in place. So if you checked out our video on the SP, it kind of annoyed me that the hinge wouldn't stay in place. That was one criticism. So, the original Game Boy Advance itself actually did stay in place. So that's kind of nice. And so it's using a different kind of hinge. We haven't had any issues with the hinge on the SP. So it's been good for us, and I haven't seen a lot of widespread problems. Which hinge is going to be better overall? I don't know. Only time will tell whether which one's going to be that. But it is, I really like that it does stay that. So that's pretty favorable. But again, it's really loud. Now, as we do some of the button testing here and we test on the buttons, the rest of it's not too loud. So the buttons themselves, they remind me of the buttons on the Miyoo Mini. So they're probably the same buttons because they seem just like it. They have that nice texture to them. They sit pretty nice and flat, and they got a pretty good travel distance. So I don't have any issues with the buttons. The D-pad, now the D-pad, it's a little bit different story. It's a little bit small, and I think they could have put in the D-pad that they had on the A30. I like that D-pad. Maybe they couldn't do it because of space. I'm not an engineer, so we'll have to give them a little leeway there. But the D-pad is just a little bit smallish, but it's in playing, I haven't had a lot of trouble with it. So it's more of just, I guess in order to maximize the space of this. And again, it's small. I mean, it's smaller overall. So I guess it's a pretty good trade-off, along with the fact that you got the sticks. And so the sticks are clicky. That's good. So you got R3 and L3, and the sticks sit pretty low. They do sit pretty low, which is necessary for this thing to shut, right? So for this to open and shut, it has to sit really low. I initially thought that was going to be a problem. Now, also where it is on the bottom of the unit, I thought that might also be a problem. But in actually using this thing, guys, I found for my hands, and I kind of have smallish hands, it's not bad. I don't dislike it. In playing games like N64 that uses the analog, I felt it to be pretty comfortable and pretty effective. Also on Dreamcast, I was able to play with some games and not have any issues with it. So I gotta say, it's pretty favorable as far as the sticks go. Now they're Switch style sticks, and maybe a slider might have been more interested in this, but you wouldn't have the clickiness of L3 and R3. So I don't know, but not a lot to complain there as far as the sticks go. Now the shoulder buttons are pretty nice as well. They're pretty good spaced out, and they also function well. I didn't have any trouble with them. So they are the style that is pretty similar to what you have on the SP, the RG35 SP. So they feel pretty much the same as both of those. I don't think they feel any different. They're kind of spaced about the same, and so that's pretty much about the same. So in my first 24 hours in playing this thing, let me just talk a little bit about some of the stuff I discovered. Now, there's a lot more to discover, and this by no means is a comprehensive review. Just like with my A30, this thing has a long ways to go before it's going to be considered Miyoo quality. They just can't seem to launch a handheld at that same level, but hey, they get there. So, it's kind of like it doesn't matter really as long as you understand what you're getting. Early adopters are going to pay the early adopter tax. That's just the way it's going to be. But a few things on this. Let's talk about a few things I discovered that are kind of not favorable right now. And the first one is that there is no labels on this thing for the SD card. So, typically in order to know if slot 1 or 2 is on the right or left, you have a little marking. And if it's on here and I just can't see it because of my old eyes, please guys tell me. But I couldn't find any labels marking anything on this. It doesn't say where any of these slots are or anything like that. And usually you have that marking for like a USB-C headphone hole or the USB-C charger. So that's a bit annoying that it's not marked. Now, the second thing is thanks to Moto and Plum OS, and we're looking forward to what you're going to do with this Moto. We do know that the behavior of the SD card slots is weird right now. So if you put the card in slot 1, or you put the card in slot 2, it's still going to treat it in this default OS. It's going to treat it as slot 1. I was actually confused when I first got this, and I had a little bit of frustration because I actually tried to put a second card in it, and I put in a Spruce card, and Spruce started showing up. And so I was actually really confused by it. So if you have 2 cards in here, this thing is not functioning correctly, not that I can see. So hopefully, again, with software, this will be fixed. The third thing is it has some software that's adding Emulation Station, which is a win. Thank you, Miyoo. I like that. However, the Emulation Station in this thing is half-baked. It's functioning halfway. It's not functioning like a full version of it. It's functioning more like the Android version of it. And this is a Linux handheld, Miyoo Linux. So that's a little bit disappointing early on. Again, these are software issues that can be corrected and fixed in the future. So that's not a problem at all. The other thing is this D-pad. As I mentioned earlier, it's a bit smallish on the side. I think that's going to bother some people. But it's not a terrible D-pad. It's not bad at all. But I think maybe they could have done with one stick like they did with the A30 and, put in the D-pad. Now, some people may try to use this for streaming and want both sticks. I don't do that kind of stuff, so I don't know. But just know that the D-pad's a little bit on the small side. And then, of course, the loud hinge that, kind of does that. Now, I don't know how sturdy this hinge is going to be. But I can know in my shake test and everything that it seemed to be pretty good. It seemed to work pretty well. So not a problem with that. But those are sort of the main issues I've found in the first 24 hours of use with this. I'm having a lot of fun, guys. Let's talk about this. There's a lot of nostalgia going around. I like the SP quite a bit, but I always thought it was a chunk boy, and I always wanted to use a grip with it, for some reason. So I'm a grip user, but with the Miyoo Flip, it is just very light. It's very light. It's very small. It's very pocketable. It's good. They got it there, guys. They got that. The hardware quality on this thing, I haven't seen widespread reports of issues. I'm sure you guys out there will find some. As a reviewer, there's no way to figure out everything that's wrong with this in the first 24 hours especially. So there'll probably be more reports of things to come. But I just haven't, I pointed out the things that I see that are issues. The no label of the SD card slot, the behavior of the SD card slot, the half-baked software it launched with. But this guy's is in the hands of a lot of custom firmware developers. So there's a lot of good stuff coming, hopefully, for it. It's got a nice screen. Now, the only other criticism that we really could have talked about is the fact that why didn't they use a screen like the one in the Powkitty V10? I mean, that would have been a much better screen, right? A 3:2 ratio on this. We all know, Miyoo, we know, Anbernic, Max Zong, he's about to launch a flip using the GBA screen that they just launched in the GBA. We're going to get a 3:2 flip screen, and if not from them, it's coming from Magic X. So guys, this you were delayed. Why did you go with this screen ratio? Now, some of you can make comments and tell me that you prefer this, but if I'm going to have a Game Boy form factor, a Game Boy Advance, I prefer it to play that the best. So I don't know if any of you have comments out there, but that's what I'd want from it. So as we wrap up this first 24 hours with this handheld, let's just again wrap this up. So far, I'm pleased. I like it. I think the price is a little high. However, you are getting a bag with it, a screen protector. It's coming in a box. I think the software is still half-baked. It's going to get better like it did with the A30. So if you want to get a good, if you don't want to pay the tax of early adopter, you might hold off on this. But I'm having a lot of fun, guys. It's fun. I like it. I like it enough to where I'm going to stop using this one probably. This one just feels fat and thick now. It's kind of like going from the PS Fat to the PS Slim. It's kind of hard to go back. So this has way better software right now. Miyoo OS is awesome, but I think the Miyoo OS guys have this. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you know. Anyways, guys, let me know what else you'd like me to see as we drop our review in the next week or so. But I wanted to do the first 24 hours with the Miyoo Flip and kind of give you guys my impressions. Again, I like it. If you can get a hold of one, I think you'll like it too, as long as you understand the shortcomings that are happening with this handheld. Remember to hug your loved ones and love your hugged ones, because tomorrow is never promised. We'll see you again, Deadheads. Dead Fred out.